morning. Well, it depends wherever you are watching us from and the time you are watching us. My name is Shore Murwira. We are in the studio here at Sly Media TV, bringing you another episode of your favorite show, Women Are Rising to Fame. And today in the studio, we are joined by Edith Weutonga, a musician, a female bass guitarist. She's everything. She's also a model. And let me leave that for her to tell us about more of her work. Edith, welcome to Sly Media TV.
Thank you so much, Shura.
How are you?
I'm good,
I'm so good. You're glowing.
Thank you.
How old are you?
It's the sun. Hey, age. Am I supposed to tell?
No, are you in the 30s, in the 40s? I know.
I think I'm in the 60s.
You lie. You look like you're younger than me. Okay, well, people say that when someone is glowing like that, there's someone behind that glow. Are you married?
Hey, my husband is not the reason for the glow.
So what's the reason behind the glow?
Wow, it is children.
Okay.
It's everything, really. I'm grateful for life, and when I'm doing what I love, I glow.
You glow. Okay, that's nice. Let's talk about your musical career. How did you start this musical career?
Professionally, I started in the year 2000 at Amakosi Township Square, and just before that, I had been in an army band ensemble because my father served in the army then. And then I auditioned at Amakosi for a jazz band, and then I was called in to be the lead vocalist there. And then a few years later, I was part of that all-female band, Amakosi Gazi, still at Amakosi. And at the same time that I was doing that, I was auditioned for a TV drama. A lot of people watched it a long time ago, Rana Sakamuzi and Foromani, and I was my Shupi in that TV drama that depicted the issues of tribalism and how people can coexist regardless of their backgrounds. And that was my journey for TV drama. For theatre, raised on Baya, cast me in Arthur Figure's adaptation of Hello and Goodbye, and everything just started at the same time. And my musical career then, of course, took precedence. As 2006, I was asked by Victor Kununga first, and then Tango Okosando to join their bands, and I eventually moved from Bulawayo to Harare to join Tango Okosando. Okay, so is this something that you wanted to do growing up, or it's something that came as an opportunity to you? Well, funny that you say that. Just yesterday, I was having a conversation with my children. I was telling them I was walking home from school. It was holiday time, and I had my friends Netai and Star and type of my extra lessons. And I said, I'm going to be a musician. And Star said, I think it's going to be very hard. And so Netai reminded me. She said, do you remember 1994? You said you wanted to be a musician, and look at you now, you know. So it's something that's always been there. Always been there. Yeah. Okay, you mentioned that your father was served in the army, and is one of the reasons that pushed you to join the army band. How did your mother took it for you to be joining the music industry? Well, for my mom, she thought I could do better elsewhere in terms of social security, because for her it was, you know, if you did nursing, if you did teaching, then you are assured of a social security, housing, health, and a pension. And so when I really then showed the signs that I was definitely going to do music, she had her reservations, but she still supported me. But she would wait for me after a night's performance, and I would find my food warm, or, you know, a cup of tea, and she wanted to find out everything. And but I think it was hard for her, because, you know, for women doing music, it's something that doesn't really assure you of something in the future. In terms of life. You know, if you want to get married, if you want to settle down, then it's gonna admit of my guitar. If it's in terms of social security, then how are you going to look after yourself when all that is done? Okay, Panga personally, you know, as African mothers, and they say when they disagree something that you want to do, Panga personally, so I can boy to shoti. No. Okay. But, you know, you're an intelligent girl. I think you should take up a profession where you've got security. And I think she realized a few years later, but you know what? she'll be successful in whatever she chooses to do, and she's supported us since.
Okay, you mentioned something, the safety in this industry. How was that for you as a female musician?
Well, you know, when we think about such issues, it's never safe for a female musician. Even now, it's never safe, because when you go to an interview, when you go to seek a recording deal, when you try to get a performance somewhere, as long as there's a man up front, there is a 99% that you're going to get compromised. And if you don't stand your ground, you will get compromised. And if you stand your ground, you will not move from the state where you are to get that opportunity that you need. And if your work is not yet selling on its own as a merit, it becomes even harder. That's why you find it's stuff that people don't want to talk about. It's stuff that men that are in the industry say, women are crybabies, or some women offer themselves to us. But, you know, women are being put or placed in a situation where it's not their music that is leading the way or opening doors, the majority. So we might say, but that is 4 out of 2,500. What about the 2,498? What is happening? 496. How are they getting their work across? And so I think, you know, in the position that I am as a union leader, these are some of the measures that we're trying to take to have gender policies that address these issues, because it's not only in Zimbabwe. As I sit on the board, on the presidium of the International Federation of Musicians, Denmark is talking about it. Finland is talking about it, but the differences in their context. They've probably addressed the issue of women getting sexually harassed or getting, discriminated because of their gender. But issues of gender need to be addressed, and if we don't take a stance about it, we're not leaving any legacy for our girls, and it will always be hard for a parent to allow their child to join the music industry.
But have you ever faced the challenge?
I have.
Okay, would you care to explain more on that?
I mean, I remember there was a time when I was invited to perform. I wanted to perform somewhere, and I had created a
right here in Zimbabwe.
Right here in Zimbabwe, I created a package to sell, you know, to pitch. This is Edith, Weutonga, an introduction, a very good package. And I wanted to meet a promoter, and they said to me, "Come, let's meet at this place." And I was there from 2 o'clock to 4 to about almost 6 o'clock. Called them several times, and they kept on saying, and then later on they said, "Okay, do you mind if we met at another location?" And the moment he mentioned that location, for me it was a red flag. And the location was? The location was a place where people have dine and their rooms there, you know.
Closed doors.
Closed doors, of course. Let's go and have dinner, let's say at Rainbow Towers.
Are the perpetrators still alive?
They are there in the industry. They are there. And I mean, when we sit women in music around and say, let's talk about these people, their names are out there. But then once you mention a name, you should be prepared to stand and say, to call them out by name and make a report and do this. I've tried it at some point. When you do your research, you'll find it out. And when you do that, you're labeled. And it's like we need policies in place that, again, when people then breach that, there must be a price to pay.
Okay, so growing up, you said you back in 1994, right? You mentioned that you always wanted to be a musician or in the music industry. Who was your inspiration?
I think it was mostly church, my grandmother, because I think from the age of 5, I visited my grandmother on my maternal side a lot, and the family setting was always that there was music. And I'm always, you know, chiding about how if we had not been in Zimbabwe and where else would easily have become the Jacksons, because my grandfather used to sing, my grandmother used to sing, and everyone in the church knew Uguti. We are youth choir, we are choir, and everyone was singing in the family. My uncles were conductors, my aunts were soloists in those choirs, and it was something that came naturally. Even now, the generation of the younger ones that we have, things like harmony, they don't need to be taught. If you start a song, they will come in harmony without, practice. And so it's always been there within the family.
All right, thank you, Edith. How many albums have you recorded so far and singles included since you started your journey?
I have 3 albums since I started,
Okay.
and I think I have over 9 or 10 singles featured by other artists and collaborations from here in Zimbabwe and from abroad.
Okay, maybe can you mention as the big artists whom you have shared stages with internationally and both local?
Locally, I shared the stage with my father, the late Dr. Chuku. I worked on a peace album with the late Shoneso Marere, Jack Reza, and Suleiman Chibetu, who were like peace ambassadors for a project that we worked on an album called Moyo Nyoro. And globally, I'm currently working on a project called One World Orchestra. And One World Orchestra is a project that has 20 musicians from 20 countries across the globe.
Oh, wow.
So Zimbabwe, Kenya, Ukraine, Spain, Mexico, and we're all in one band. And we've just completed performances at a festival. And I've also done collaboration and a tour with a musician, a British musician called Ruth Theodore, and we've just completed a tour. Before I came to Zim, completed a tour of the United Kingdom, and we'll be going off now when I go back on a European tour. I've worked with a German-based musician called Akua Naru. We did a collaboration together, and yeah, the list is quite long.
Okay, now that you've mentioned the UK, I've learned that you are still in UK. Are you based there? Did they adopt you, or you're still Zimbabwean?
I'm Zimbabwean British now, so I'm working in the UK. I'm working in Zimbabwe, and Weutonga because there are so many projects that are happening in Zimbabwe. Like I said, I'm the president of the Zimbabwe Musicians Union, and from last year we embarked on a project where we're getting mentorship from Finland. And so we've been on a 10-province campaign, a national campaign, to get the union established in the 10 provinces. And I'm glad to say we completed this round in March of this year. And last week, on the 17th of May, we completed the first ever national conference of the musicians union chapters. So with all the provinces come, with the permanent secretary in our parent ministry, Mr. Nicholas Moyo, come and officiate the event. And we had presentations, from these provinces. And so my work between Zimbabwe and UK is a lot. As soon as I arrive in the UK, I'm back in the office. And as I'm in the UK, my office at the International Federation of Musicians also will call me to France, so I travel a lot to France. And yeah, I am living, I'm a global citizen. I'm at home, I'm at home in London, I'm at home in Harare, I'm in the office in...
But which one is more for home to you?
I think home is where my family is. And my husband and children are in London. Okay. And I have my older son here in Zimbabwe, and my parents and my siblings. And so when we want to record something with my siblings who are also in the music industry, I come home. I recently just come home because Kwakunerora of the last born in our family, and so I had to come home for that.
But how do you juggle that? Music, traveling, family?
Well, I suppose can win a good support base. It works, and my husband has been very instrumental in that. And when I left Zimbabwe to go and take up my master's studies in London, he stayed with the children.
Oh.
And throughout COVID, it was him and my sisters who looked after the children. And when then they eventually joined me in the United Kingdom, again, because I'm touring, I'm a musician, he's the one that's looking after the children. And that, I think, as long as you know as a mother that your children are fine, you are okay to do whatever you need to do, be it study. I've carried on with my studies, I've carried on with my touring, and I'm not worried about anything because I know they're all okay.
How did you feel when you were separated? You said that you traveled from Zimbabwe to UK, leaving your children and your husband in Zimbabwe. How did you feel being separated from your children for such a period until they joined you?
It wasn't easy. I think when the world was okay, before the COVID outbreak, I was fine, because then I always knew they were okay. I had moments when I'd miss them and I'd really get depressed about it. But when lockdown happened and my husband was in media here in Zimbabwe, and I thought, okay, every time he's going out for news, he's likely going to bring back this bug in the house, my children. Okay, what if something happens to him? And that would make me cry. And I would be like, and you know, you find yourself in this bubble of worry. But when he joined me and when, you know, the doors were opening up again, I was, you know, okay, in the hope that, okay, I know I'm going to see them. And the children also hopeful because then they knew kind of did random mama as well, yeah. Okay.
Now I want us to talk about the comparison working in the UK and working in Zimbabwe. How do you compare it in your industry, in your line of work?
Well, I would say that well, the United Kingdom is a first world, you know, and I'm based in England, and the work ethic to begin with is completely different from here. So if you go to work, you're going to get paid.
Okay.
And you're going to pay the rates are worthy of your what?
Of
your work. So there is no way that I'm going to put in 12 hours and not be paid. There's no way that I'm going to drive my car 2 hours away, get into a rehearsal room or into a recording studio and not get paid. And that has made my life even much easier for me to fundraise for whatever I want to fundraise to come and do back at home. Because you work, and some people don't even feel obligated to pay you. Promoters get away without paying you. Venues get away without paying you. Or when they decide to pay you, they're giving you a pittance with your band or your family. The same with the hotels. Now out there, they have standard rates. There's a rate card. When a musician is called to do this job, where is the last minute? The last minute. That's 30 minutes. But 30 minutes is more expensive than 2 hours because then I'm still going to cancel out my whole day to come and do your job. And yet you don't say, $20. The stories that I've heard when we went around on the provincial campaign are so sad, you know. And some of them are even coming to a point where musicians are and they're not being paid. And yet you think those are the spaces where they're supposed to be paid, but musicians are going away, and you're thinking, okay, so where are we lacking? We've got resources, the money is there, it's just such a big event, how come musicians are not being paid? And then you go, you find the moment you sign a contract, and it's been acknowledged, the clock starts ticking on the money, and you get paid the money that you're worth.
So what do you think should be done, Edith, in your own opinion? What do you think should be done to make sure that musicians are paid what they are worth?
I think it's legislative to start with.
Okay.
A recognition that musicians are workers, artists are workers, and to consider the fact that there must be a standard minimum rate. Saka munhu haakwanisi kundideedza kugig and say kuti ndine $20 because it is below the threshold. And the campaign that we did in the provinces has helped us, you know, come to what will be the minimum threshold, and that's what we are on the next step to present to the relevant ministries, to the relevant authorities. But I was so threshold yedu ndei. Kana munhu atodeedza musician, each individual in a band kana mati hapana mari haipfuuri this amount of money. And from there, people can negotiate up. Vaya vagara vane mazita kunzi tikadeedza jaha, tikadeedza wingi, tikadeedza Edith. Aiwa, uyu tinotongotangira ukatitangire pakapusa because tinotoziva kuti ite artist well established. But it's the young ones that are growing, that are getting exploited in the name of Chikukupa platform. It's the hotels that are thinking, oh, tikakupa chikafu, you know, it's okay. And they're getting away with it. And these are the things that I'm really passionate about, and I think they should be addressed for us to actually realize kuti kana band nyangwe my teenagers vari kutounza food to the table, vari kutounza their contribution to the country's GDP. So why is it that they're not considered as workers? Why are we looking aside to the fact that they are workers, and what can we do about it? And so if we have a policy that looks at that, if we have a policy or a system that's looking at our copyright act and address kuti musicians, besides Edith front jaha kana wingi kana fungisai kumashure kwake kune musicians are kuridza who also deserve, you know, their royalties, then, you know, we are letting them down. And I think if those things are looked at, And I think we have a listening ministry and we have a listening, government to the needs. Zema artists, I think will be happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Edith. Let's also talk about, I understand that you are a cultural ambassador, something. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I wouldn't say cultural ambassador, but in February, the Finnish Musicians Union awarded me with an award. The funny thing about this award is Chibakera Chakaita Song. It's a feast. And the feast is associated with, liberation, with revolution and advocacy and people that are fighting for a cause. And
in Zimbabwe, it's associated with many other things.
Well, it's associated, I suppose, with our main political party in it. And people choose to regard that as, in a way that is, according to their perspective. But this award is a golden feast. It's called the Nirki Award. I'll share that information with you further.
Okay. And
it's an award that's given to people that are fighting for the cause for musicians in Finland.
Wow.
So the surprise and the shock for me was that I had attended a conference in Finland, and the Musicians Union asked the organizers of the conference if they could present this award to me at this conference. Having been recognized as someone who's fighting for the cause for musicians, having found the collaboration between Zimbabwe and Finland for the musicians, and that being the reason why we've been able to reach out to the musicians in the 10 provinces. And I think until next year, going further, the local union is going to get support and mentorship from Finland. And so I could have stayed in the UK and said my life is fine now because there's a union that works and musicians are well taken care of there, and enjoyed my life there, but I didn't. I went out there to look out for the needs of the Zimbabwean musicians still, and maybe that's one of the reasons why they awarded me this.
Okay. Is the Zimbabwean community or the Zimbabwean government faring well or giving you enough support since you are raising the Zimbabwean flag high in the international community?
I think when we do what we do, we're not doing it to be rewarded, really.
Okay.
And when a reward comes, we thank God, we thank our ancestors, because they're the ones shining the light on us, and the world notices. And if we were to do it for rewards, I think then we'll be on the wrong path,
okay, because
that doesn't come easy. Even the Bible says a prophet is never acknowledged or recognized in their own land. So it happens out there, and that's fine. In the book Ramwari, Remidzimu, and the history of the nation when we are talking music, what I know for sure is that my name will be there.
Okay.
And I think that's enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Edith. Maybe the other question that I would like to pose to you, let's go back a little to the surfeit of women in the music industry.
Yeah.
We understand that there are women who are hired to perform in places like pubs and stuff, and I'm sure you were also invited at some point in time. How safe is it for women?
I think when you look at it, what is a gig at a pub? It's your office for the day. During my time here, there was just 105. There was Book Cafe, there was the Mannenberg, there was the Zim Cafe, there was the Sports Diner.
Okay.
In all those spaces, there are men who are out there looking for an opportunity, especially when I go to the stage and say, So it depends on it depends on how you're cultured you are as the individual who's on stage. The safety that we cry for is in the space where you find it, maybe the people that are manning this space are actually putting you as bait.
Okay.
You understand what I mean? Yes. Why would a man come dressed right because I'm a woman and I must attract the patrons that are coming in? That becomes a problem, and I think we saw that problem at a time when we had so many dance groups in the country. And when you hear the stories that happened during that time, because I'm now a transport or out of town. I used to travel out of town with my band to Harare, but of course with the manager. But for most, when it was now kind of accommodation, and then the accommodation you're given, and you're compromised. And I remember specifically when I I performed somewhere. It was a gig ranga riri at a space yekuti let's say panenge pachikoro kana kuti pacamp. And mobva manzi mimi bendi muchazonorarawo someone waukutora munzi muri kunorarawo. And someone
was someone's house.
No, it wasn't someone's house, but anenge madome like.
Okay.
And yet tavhara dhoka, believe it or not, one guy popped out of the wardrobe.
You lie.
I'm telling you. And we're shocked, and you know, I'm feeling, oh, hello, and Arkubuda wardrobe, so baby.
But did you ask him questions? Did you give him time to explain himself?
How do you even give them time to explain? The first thing you want to do is fight.
Was he dressed?
I mean, he was dressed, he was fully dressed, and it was the person I think we are one share room with whoever
Okay. All right. Okay.
Because when I think there was just two of us in the band. And this guy ended up wardrobe. And I remember my friend akamujambira kumusana ndikampa bhodhoro akarowa mufesi iyo ane bhodhoro musoro bhodhoro anautwanya. You know, and then we struggled for the keys, and this guy got out, locked us in, and we were shouting for help. And I'll bet you the next room had other males or whoever, people that were in this area, but no one came out.
They pretended like they never had
Exactly.
anything.
Almost like it was a punishment. And then someone else came and then opened the door for us. But then anything could have happened. Anything could have happened. If we didn't fight, anything could have happened. And imagine how many young women or women that get into these situations and they don't talk about it.
And sometimes they are not masculine to fight the men.
Exactly. Because there are no, measures in place. But all right, if something like this happens to you, what do you do? Because when you talk about it, we've read so many stories that happened, and how the person, a kind of report a story, becomes the person victimized one more. And so people tend to just keep quiet about these issues. And so if we have a sexual harassment policy within the arts that addresses all these issues, I think people will be named and shamed, and people will be, made responsible to take responsibility of what they have done. And if there are consequences to pay, then people would be more, behaved, I think, and respect the women that they are working with within the sector. Okay,
you spoke of musicians being underpaid, Edith. Is there a fairness between female musicians and male musicians when it comes to payment?
I think like in sport, it's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. We could go to the same performance platform with my brothers, and someone is going to get a lot more than I do. Not because they are bigger, but maybe because the same way it would be easier for them to get access to anything, because mufesi wangu ndakakwanisa kumupa generator kuti anoita zvakati, but inini ndikada kukumbira same generator to have access kuti ndiite performance. The steps, the obstacles are so many, and it becomes really hard.
Have you tried to question the promoters about this, and what was their response?
I think the response that we've always got is that madzimai amushandiki nemi. And the kusashandika nezvo, I suppose it also involves, compromising. So if you don't compromise, amushandiki nemi. If you demand what is right for you, amushandiki nemi. If you refuse to go for a drink first before you negotiate a gig, amushandiki nemi. And we're saying, kuti, why can it not just be straightforward? True kuda for a gig, window gig. We've seen artists that were born out of kuti they lost their parents. Over it was sympathy. And then wotopinda pastage wotopiwa platform. Versus artist rakazvitangira rega riri kuridza, a female artist anogona, but ari kunyimwa same platform, And those are the challenges that we face, because hakuna anongokupa that platform. Kutai watimbokupai, because vanenge vasina loss when you've got big artists coming and you take one or two. And the policy at National Arts Council is that there must always be at least one or two females. So they keep calling the same people until you content.
Oh, that's too bad. You also mentioned about the dressing of musicians when they are performing, especially female musicians. In your own opinion, is that an excuse to put someone at a compromised position because she's halfly dressed, or an akaisa guvu panze?
look, munhu kana chero akapfeka mutsiga ndikurore anongodedzerwa parota kunzi zvakati handiti. Saka kana uri pastage, you've got the spotlight, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you are performing to patrons sometimes who are getting drunk. Saka what's to stop them kuti asvika achikubata because you are scantily dressed? What's to stop them to comment about your body or body shame you because vari kuiona shape yebody yako yese because you are not fully covered? My brother akapfeka zibhutsu rinosvika uko, akapfeka zijacket, akapfeka trouser, akazvivhara even in videos. While we're saying kuti the first world to America they do that, people vanoita izvozvo vachishama. But maybe we're working in a sector where ikoko kwachona even next door South Africa, because of tradition, women who move around dressed, cleavage iri panze, my hips are panze, but they're most likely to walk past namuna kumwara sadhana akafamba pana fourth.
Yeah, that's true.
Saka kuno culture yedu inoti muna cover themselves. Andika, but kana ndakapfeka costume yangu yebasa handisi kuti inini chiitawo opportunity yekuti mundiite label, mundituke, or kuti mungondibata kana ndichifura ndichienda pastage. And it shouldn't be the promoter's call or the venue operator's call kunzi vasikana pfeka izvo noattracta chi customer, because that's where I'm coming from, where you're being told what to wear, not because you want to wear that. You're being told pfeka izvo akaita so muattract macustomer atodzwa unzi unogona kubva wakabata wako uchienda kumba.
Okay, thank you so much, Edith. As we round up our discussion, I would like you to open up a little bit and tell us something that you think you've never said before. Maybe you need a platform, maybe you needed a platform growing up and you never had one. What is it, that thing that you can say that you've never said before or told anyone before?
I'm an open book.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. No, ndatutaura zvimwe zvinhu zvasati zvambotaurwa. Muchazoona zvakutegwa unzi makati chipa programini ndatozvitaura kuti
You're the husband.
No. I've already opened, I think I believe sometimes I'm taken advantage of because I have a big heart.
Okay.
Yeah. And people know that it's kind of that she's big-hearted, and sometimes
they take advantage of you.
Put me into trouble.
Okay, I know you said you are rounding up. There's one question that I wanted to ask. We were speaking about dressing, right? And you have some young musicians that you said you are mentoring as well. Is dressing also part of your topics that you put on table for discussion with them?
Yes, we put that for discussion under grooming and etiquette.
Okay.
The fact that, kana uchifamba pese pauri, you have a 5-camera theory in your head.
Okay.
Kuti vandiri kufamba pana ari kundoona apa, ari kundoona apa, ari kundoona. So however I'm dressed should be a right and a good presentation of who I want people to see. And it's coming from ipapo also kana uchienda pastage kushama zino pfeka zvakanaka ita so, and people then don't look down upon us kunzi mati dzagedzi ukasvika pavari vari kunwaziya. We've heard those comments, and just on how best you can look after your body. So it goes beyond just dressing. We have health clinics, we have mental wellness clinics as a union, and those have actually helped us a lot when we're dealing with our members.
Well, that's nice. I'm keeping one thing lastly. Okay, can you tell us your noticeable achievements in your career? I know you mentioned some of them as we were speaking.
Well, I'm that bassist that has stood out in a space where zvichiri kushamisa kuti kune madzimai anoridza magitari, especially bass guitar, ndichiimba, and having done so well leading a band. My band is toured the world, keeps on touring. I'm an award-winning musician, I'm an award-winning actress, and I'm the first young African female to be on the Presidium of the International Federation of Musicians.
Wow.
That's a first for Zimbabwe, that's a first for Africa, because ever since inception of this organization, there's never been an African woman in the Presidium, and I'm the first. And I think there'll be so many more coming behind me. And I think these are achievements that are not celebrated enough. we tend to water it down because, again, it's a woman.
It's a woman.
And we posted about it on social media, and people almost like, but my hashtag is always we keep walking. To those that it matters to, they've seen it and it makes impact. Social media is not the space where you want to base your life on, but we also expect acknowledgement from I think those that we serve in terms of people that we're coordinating within the ministry to say, okay, for example, with the PEMSEC coming in and saying, this award says a lot about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is enough, you know. Social media of people that exist online and not in person, it doesn't really matter. And I think for the people that it matters to, that's enough.
Well, thank you so much, Edith. So, where should people go when they want to listen to your music?
I'm on iTunes, Edith Weutonga, on Spotify, on so many, I think, streaming platforms. I'm there. You go to YouTube, you'll find me as well.
Okay, it's Edith Weutonga.
You just go to www.edithweutonga.co.za. That's my website.
Okay, before we close up, I see you have your instrument with you. It's a mbira. Can you give us a freestyle?
It's not my instrument. I'm learning it.
You're learning it.
I'm learning it. So whatever you hear.
So we want to hear whatever you are learning.
So this song is a song that I play bass on my second album. It's titled Rudo.
Okay.
And I wrote the song with my husband years back, 20 years ago. So I discovered it on there.
Thank you so much, Edith. Weutonga. Well, the good part of it, none of us in this room knows how to play piano. It was excellent for us.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was Edith Weutonga with us in Sly Media Studios today. She was talking to us about her musical career, her life on our program, Women Rising to Fame, as we profile women who are rising to fame in different sectors in Zimbabwe. My name is Shore Murgira, and the crew behind the camera. See you again next time.